My name is Keith, and from the time I was about 4 years old, I was interested in being a part of the entertainment business. And I've done many things throughout that time, from singing in bands, writing music, hosting television shows, everything involved in the professional wrestling business. And I've written comic books, done a lot of things, and almost all of those things failed in some way or another. But I still kept going. I still wanted to continue to create. And there's just something in me that drives me to create. And I started thinking, well, what is it that drives anyone to create? And that's going to be the point of this podcast. We're going to talk to people from all aspects of the entertainment industry. We're going to find out what made them interested in creating art, and why, when faced with success, when faced with failure, the ups and downs of life and life in the entertainment business, they continue to create. So, and hopefully we'll have some good and interesting conversations along the way that you'll be interested in hearing. So tune in to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. Welcome to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Keith. And as you can see, still not in the studio. Tyler's still not feeling well. But we are moving along, man. We're getting these interviews done. We're knocking them out. We're talking to some awesome people. And tonight we have Bloodsaw here with us. He is a professional wrestler. He is also an actor, a musician, very talented man. Bloodsaw, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys having me on here today. You know, it's a lot of fun getting to talk to you guys, and I appreciate what you guys do. Put in the effort to give guys like me a space to come be a little bit weird with you.
Right on. Yeah, thanks. So let's start from the beginning. That's where we like to start. So when did you know that you wanted to be involved in the entertainment business, whether that was the acting, the music, or the wrestling?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting way to phrase it. I like that. A lot of people are like, when did you know you want to be a wrestler? And I'm like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So, like, entertainment for me, man, it's always just been something I really enjoyed. From a young age, love to sing. I love to, like, be out there in front of people, doing theater, stuff like that. It's always entertainment. You know, and, like, as I've grown into wrestling especially, you know, they always say wrestling is you turned up to 11. And I think recently I've come to realize that that's entirely true. You know, Bloodsaw with the top hat and being who I am, you know, when I come out the curtain, welcome to the show. And it's always been that way for me, like for as long as I can remember. I think, you know, the first time I really was like, I'm going to go do something. It was like fifth grade, there was chorus, and I was like, oh, I get to go sing in front of people. I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So I just took off performing, brother. I never looked back. I love it. I love everything about it. The energy. I don't care what anyone tells you. You know, the energy that you feel when people are there and you're and like they're with you, can't top that. I don't care what you do, can't top that. So
yeah, it's the best feeling in the world, man, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
So was music what got your foot in the door then? Was it's like singing in the choir, that was where it started? Or the chorus?
Actually, so it was kind of a little bit before that where like I started to do performance stuff. Like I was just down to do whatever, you know. But then like, yeah, so when we got to, hey, you could sing, you could pick up an instrument. So like I started playing saxophone at the same time. A lot of kids, they were like, dude, you know, well, you know, you're a young kid and they're like, oh, well, you could sing or you could play an instrument, or, you know, and I was like, no, I want to do both. And they were like, well, that's not really an option. And I was like, make it an option. And so I did, man. I used to, sometimes it is, you know, they'll still give you some cojones on it in school, but if you push what you want, man, you could have it. Cause you know, so yeah, I play alto and tenor saxophone. Did that for a long time. I still play, I still own a sax now. And then, yeah, I sing every week. I still sing constantly. So,
yeah, saxophone's a great instrument, man. I love the sound of saxophone. Like nothing beats a good sax solo, you know.
You know, it's super cool because like I don't know why this is such a weird thing. I can't really play the guitar or bass, because in my head, for whatever reason, it doesn't work to be like, oh, you got to get closer to make it a high pitch. Like, you know what I mean? And on the sax, it's like, no, you just work your way down and then you're good to go. So like, but it's also cool because usually if there's a sax solo in a song, the singer's not singing. So most of my bands, when I would gig out, I would do both, and it was never a problem because no one sings over a sax solo. So it was cool.
Nice. So, when did you? So after the music, did the acting come? Was that the next step?
So yeah, acting and theater. How I got into theater and performing on a bigger stage like that is kind of a fun story ish. It's just the way life goes, right? So I was a perennial athlete. I played football, baseball, basketball. Man, I was into it. Well, you know, when I was younger, I would like run cross country at school, leave that, and go to football practice, and like that's what I would do. Like I just wanted to stay in shape and do my thing. Freshman year of high school, I'm out there and I'm playing football, and I was, you know, on varsity freshman year, so like things were cool. Got my first letter, cool. Winter hits and I'm playing basketball, and I go for a layup in practice and I break my ankle. Completely destroyed my ankle in practice, and I'm like, I'm only here to stay in shape because like baseball and football were much more my sports. But I'm 5'10", I'm 240. Like I'm not a dunker, you know what I mean? Like I'm just here to run and stay in shape, brother. You know. So I break my ankle, and my football coach is like, "Well, it's going to mess up your lifting. How are you going to be ready for football season?" And I was like, "Damn, you're right." So quit basketball and ended up. I was like, well, I can't do nothing because that's just not who I am as a person. So I was already singing. I played saxophone. I was musically inclined, but I'd never done a musical before. And somebody was like, well, that's kind of like the same season, you know? So I went out. I had no idea what I was doing, man. I auditioned. I'm pretty sure I sang the Star Spangled Banner for my first audition ever, because I walk on stage and the teacher's like, what are you singing? And I was like, what am I supposed to sing now?
Yeah,
I was like, I don't have sheet music. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I sang that. I ended up, it was a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I don't know if you know the show or not. Yeah. I got cast as Miles Gloriosus. My first ever role. I walked in, I got a lead character. I never looked back, man. I have no regrets about that. And, you know, I always tell people, I'm like, listen, just say yes to life, because you never know where you're going to get to. If you're saying no, you'll get nowhere. So they were like, oh, try out for the musical. Okay. And then my junior year of high school, they were like, hey, come try out for this musical, not at the school. So I went and I did my first like community theater show. Somebody there saw me. They were like, hey, you should come audition for this paid show. And I was like, you get paid for this? You know? And yeah, man, it just took off from there. That was my whole progression. I think I did 6 shows, and then I started getting paid. And I was just out there doing it.
Awesome, man.
Super fun, bro.
So,
super fun.
And you know what's funny? The Star Spangled Banner is a song that everyone knows, but it's one of the hardest songs to sing. Like, you picked a hard song for your audition, man.
Like, well, I'm a high tenor. So, like, you know, think, I don't know, anyone who doesn't know singing, think somewhere between like Ozzy and Josh Groban level of singing, like whatever you're into. Meatloaf, sure. I grew up singing Meatloaf and Cooper, Guns N' Roses, like that kind of stuff. So hitting the high notes for me, like, yeah, man, let's rip it. Let's get into it.
When I was younger, I was in metal bands, and it's really good workout for your vocals. But now I'm 50, and they're shredded. You know, I mean,
it's hard, man. Like doing the metal stuff. It was always described to me as like, imagine you just took a mouthful of gravel and swallowed it, and then try and sing through it. And I was like, damn, this sucks. But you know, that's what it is. So
yeah, and so much of it is in your throat, which isn't a normal way to sing. It puts a lot of strain on your vocal cords. I tried so hard to sing through my diaphragm, but with some of that music, I couldn't anyway. I don't know if other people can, but
dude, you can't growl from your diaphragm. You know what I mean? It's
exactly,
not, Like, dude, I'll tighten up the diaphragm. I'll hit, if I'm singing Patience or something, like, yeah, dude, that's all from the diaphragm, but I'm not ripping through something crazy from my diaphragm. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, I noticed when I was doing a little research on you that you've done Rocky Horror.
Yeah, brother.
That is, what is that experience like? Just walk me through it, man. That's amazing. Like,
well, you know what, man? Let's keep the story rolling. So my first ever paid show was Rocky Horror.
oh,
So,
wow.
so like I had seen the movie because everyone's seen the movie, right? If you're
Yeah, of course.
any kind of a degenerate at all, you've seen it. So, of course, I've seen it a bunch of times. So that was the show where they were like, "Hey, you were good in this. You should come audition for this show." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I think I was 18 years old, literally, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll show up." So I showed up to this audition, and I meet the director. I've never even met him before, and he shakes me and he goes, "Hey, Rocky, nice to meet you." And I was like, "My name is
What?
Quint Bloodsaw. It's not who I am, right?"
Right.
And so he's like, "Oh, well, you're going to be Rocky here." And I walk in. I was trying to audition for Raff, Riff Raff, because I was like, that's the song I like. I even sang, what's it called? The Morpheus song?
Yeah.
The darkness must flow. That one. So I sang that. And he was like, that's cool. Rocky. And I was like, damn. All right, whatever. So, but like part of the audition process, now if you've ever seen the movie, the pool scene? The pool scene at the end?
Yeah.
So part of the audition, and when you do it live on stage, the Transylvanians there, they come out and they're dressed in blue, and they surround the main characters, and they are the water, and you're swimming through these waters, but it's people.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
it's not lacking in sensuality.
Right.
So part of the audition was to actually do that. And so you're in a room full of 40 people you've never met before, and they're like, all right, everybody lay together next to each other, alternate head and toes, okay, and now get from one side of the room to the other and touch as many people as you can on the way.
Wow.
And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy. Because I didn't know that was a part of the show. I was like, this is just a really weird kink, I guess, but whatever. Yeah. I'm 18. Let's go for it.
Your extra wants to see it.
Yeah, man. So like I did it and everything worked out well. But that show, I've toured it and performed it, I think like 52 times is the number. And it's just been so interestingly enough, if you've seen the movie, I also play the Eddie sax solo. So cool. On stage as Rocky, I'm in the gold underwear and I'm doing the whole thing, but then I'll play the sax solo live. So that was one of my first times being paid to play saxophone as well, because they didn't have to hire the extra sax player for the pit for that one song. It was just, pay that guy a little more. He'll hop up on stage and do it. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome, man.
I ended up later in my career too. So with wrestling, this was the most recent time, because I won't say last because you never know, but the most recent time I had done Rocky, it was billed in Connecticut as Buzz Bloodsaw is Rocky Horror. And so it was a bunch of these like newspaper things where it was like, Rocky, me with the blonde hair looking through the mask, and it was all these things. And we ended up booking it as a flash mob at a wrestling event. So a couple of context clues here that are really weird, and if you're into wrestling, it's cool.
Oh yeah.
So definitely. This was Ox Baker's last ever wrestling show.
Oh wow.
Ox Baker, who ended up dying fairly, I think it was like 6 months after this. He was at this show, so he gets in the ring. He's in the ring and he's looking at us, and it was me and my group at the time, so we're all face painted weirdos. And he's looking at us, and he's like, what is wrong with these guys? And then the music hits, and out from the back come all the Transylvanians and Riff Raff and Magenta and Columbia, and everybody gets in the ring. And Ox Baker is standing in the middle of the ring going, the hell is it? So they throw a feather boa on him, and they do the time warp. So in a wrestling ring, you've got a couple of face painted guys, Ox Baker with a pink feather boa, a bunch of leather clad men and women doing the time warp. And it was one of the most significant days for me of my wrestling career because we get out of the ring and Ox Baker comes up in the locker room. And, you know, if you've ever worked with these legends or these guys, they have these respectable, you know, I was there when this happened. And, you know, and Ox looks at me and he goes, that was the best wrestling thing I have ever seen. And I was like, what do you mean, man? And he was like, wrestling is a circus. And he's like, and I tell this story all the time. He's like, wrestling is a circus. You don't go there to see all acrobats. You don't go there to see all lion tamers. You go there because sometimes you got to have something weird happening here, and then this happening here, and this happening here. And he was like, there's never been something like this before. That's wrestling. And that's stuck with me forever.
That's
because, like,
awesome. Yeah,
man. Huge bit of advice where, like, it just kind of taught me that in wrestling, when you think you can define something as like, this is what it has to be. Yeah. Nah, man. Try something else and watch what happens.
One of the best things about wrestling is that there's something for everybody in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's if it's done right, there's something for everybody. You know, and it's really, really cool. You know, what got me interested in wrestling when I was a kid was I really liked comic books. I kind of got into it both at the same time. I was around 4 years old when I got into both, but it was like comic books first, and I was like, "There's superheroes on TV." You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, so it was really cool. Like the comic book. I'm not sure who it was, but there was actually a panel at San Diego Comic-Con this year explaining the connection between wrestling and comics. And
That's cool.
I'm not sure who hosted it, but I can't remember. Oh, maybe Tony Schiavone, actually.
Okay,
I
that
think
makes
it
sense.
might have been Tony Schiavone or the guy who wrote Tony Schiavone's book. Yeah, because Tony Schiavone has a comic book called Butts and Seats. And it's pretty good, honestly. It's like his whole history in the business in comic book form. It's pretty cool.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So anyway,
entertainment and like, well, I was gonna say, like, for me, man, like that was kind of like what hooked me. I didn't watch wrestling a lot growing up. I wasn't allowed to, but when I was a kid around like 4 years old, I saw it was Undertaker and Warrior in the body bag match. Yeah. And like Ultimate Warrior, man, he was my guy. Like, even still, I do a lot of weird things because he did it, and I think it's cool. But like, you know, that he was at the time, he was such a superhero that I was like, wow. Like that same thought process of superheroes, that was always my thought. So it's kind of funny that you had the same thought process behind it.
I mean, I think we're not alone in that, man. I think like it's a connection that a lot of wrestling fans make, especially if they get into it younger. You know, they make the connection between the superheroes and heroes and villains on TV, you know, real life superheroes. So big characters, you know. So from well, let's talk a little bit about the music because we haven't talked too much about it.
Okay.
What did you ever record anything, or you just strictly performed live with bands, or how?
I just performed live. We did a couple of things where, like, so I would, like, in high school it was a big thing for us. Like, we'd go around, we'd pick up different shows, we would just play out wherever we could and do stuff. After that, I did some stuff like singing out with my uncle has a band that I would sing for his band every now and then, and I'll still fill in with some different weird stuff if I can. I don't get to gig as much as I would like to anymore, just because life happens, man. And like, you know, when you have a regular, like, I say a regular job, but like, you know, I do professional wrestling. I do run restaurants. I do that kind of stuff too. So like, I'm always around the scene, which is why I sing every week. You know, I'm out there doing different stuff, entertaining in some way. But having a consistent band is tough. I will say this though, right now there's a project I'm working on where royalty music in the modern age of professional wrestling, right? When you have your entrance song and do you have the rights to that? And then they shut you down.
Right.
Well,
Right.
if you write and record your own songs, you have all the
It's
royalties.
been, yeah.
So I can't necessarily say anything yet, but there is potentially a few Bloodsaw things coming of some things that I will then have to own the rights and royalty to. So we're working on a couple of projects. We'll see what happens, but
Very cool.
that's the plan, man.
Nice. So from the music, from the acting, how do you become a wrestler from that? Like, where does that transition happen?
It's kind of an accident, to be completely honest with you, because I didn't grow up watching wrestling. Like I said, I've told the story a couple times. When I was a young kid, I saw Jimmy Snuka jump off the cage on a video, and I was like literally 4 years old. Pulled out my wrestling buddy, pulled out my couch cushions, climbed on top of the fridge, and then jumped off my fridge onto like just couch cushions. My parents were like, "Not a good plan." Because I was at the time just watching a bunch of old Coliseum home videos. That's what I would do. So fast forward like what was it, 2011? So however long ago that was. I was running gyms. So I was a general manager for LA Fitness gyms, and I was doing personal training and all that kinds of stuff. And I was training a football team locally Connecticut, and I was their trainer, and I was like, cool, maybe I'll go back to playing football. I was still doing theater, but I missed a role. So like, for anyone who doesn't know how theater works, you only get paid when the show ends most of the time. So like, if you miss a role and like you don't get cast as the part you're supposed to get cast for, there's no money until you find your next casting. So I was like, well, this is not ideal because now I'm not making money. I need that extra money. What should I do? And the guy called me. He's like, hey man, there's a wrestling tryout in South Windsor. And it wasn't even a tryout, it was a seminar.
Okay.
And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't literally.
Yeah.
And he thought I was kidding. I was like, what does that even mean? So he's like, listen, Robbie E is coming to South Windsor. He's going to be doing a thing. Sign up. He's like, you get in the ring for 3 hours with Robbie E. He'll teach you a couple of things about it. If you like it, maybe that could be your thing. He's like, it's kind of like acting and football put together because you hit people, you entertain, all these things. I was like, that does sound kind of fun. I do like that. So when I signed up for the seminar and I showed up, and I was the only guy to show up. So it was me, Robbie E, and one of his students. We were in the ring for 3 hours. And so by the end of 3 hours, we ran a 5-minute match. And I'd gone from like, I've never even locked up with a guy to a 5-minute match. It wasn't good. Don't give me credit. Don't be like, he's a natural. No, we got through something. And it was funny is that show ended up being canceled. Didn't even happen. It was literally just, it was a snowstorm. And so like all these crazy things. Yeah. But yes, I showed up and did that. I quit my job Monday. Seminar was on Saturday and I quit my job on Monday and I went to wrestling school. And that was it, man. I enjoyed what it was, the athleticism of it. It was fun. And like, there was no crowd. It was just like a demo match for Robbie E, man. But like, and I didn't know who Robbie E even was. I had literally no idea. I didn't. What's that?
I said Robbie E's a very talented guy. Like I've followed him from on the Indies. So I mean, I've watched his whole career. Like I'm kind of a fan of Robbie, to be honest. Like it's fun to watch.
No, he's a good dude. Super nice dude. I'm like, and that's the thing is like he had no reason to do anything like that for me because I didn't know what the business was, man. He could have been like, oh, lock up. Okay, now bump for 2 hours and then been like, go home. But he didn't do that. You know, he was like, let's get something out of it. Right. So, I quit my job Monday. I had my first day of wrestling school was December 6th, 2011. So that was like the day where I went in there, I started. I had my first match the third week of January 2012. So like, We were live and in front of a crowd. I think it was the second or third week of January.
Okay.
I had a double shot day. My first day ever, I had a double shot. We did at the wrestling school, we had like a little kid's birthday party in the afternoon.
Sure.
And then we took off and we went down to New York for a battle royal. So I did 2 matches my first day. But and that was it, man. And I didn't have a regular job again for like 5 years.
Wow.
I rode the wave, man. It was super awesome.
Yeah, very cool, man. So
it's kind of a weird transition.
Yeah, just kind of. So, you say you still sing every week at the restaurants. Are you still taking acting gigs, or is that kind of?
So I did an acting gig. My last one was 6 years ago.
Okay.
I think 6 years ago. I did Rock of Ages. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so I was Stacy Jacks as the Tom Cruise character.
Sure.
So like that was my last gig I had done. I don't necessarily say no to them, but I mean with wrestling and everything else that I'm doing, theater takes a lot of time to do it right. Most things, if you're going to do it right, take a little bit of time. So with wrestling, like committing myself to being like, well, I'm going to be at rehearsals 4 nights a week, and then I'm going to perform Friday, Saturday, Sunday for these many weekends in a row. You know, it kind of goes back to like this mindset I had when I broke my ankle wrestling, playing basketball, where I was like, if it's not the thing I'm doing, it can't supersede the thing I want to be doing, because you know, you might as well break an ankle if you're going to take a whole month off of wrestling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? So, you know, in wrestling, I think versus theater, like theater is, I think, a little more gentle to you as you age, whereas wrestling, like I'm 35, right? So right now I'm having the most fun. Honestly, I'm having a ton of fun with it, but it's like, you know, when I'm 45, it'll be a different conversation. Whereas, hey, you're 45. Do you want to go sing on stage and do a dance number? Well, that's, you know what I mean? So I kind of hedge those things against each other a little bit, and maybe it's a bad plan. Maybe it's not what everyone else would do, but for right now, it's like, you know, I've got the AIWF International title, and I'm trying to lock down my dates for a European tour. Like, I'm trying to lean into this wave and have some fun with this while I can, because, you know what I mean? Eventually someone's going to be like, hey man, your bump card's up. And I'm going to be like, oh, in the morning. So, So it's, man, I'm not against it, but.
Right on. So, currently you're focusing on wrestling, obviously. And I know that you're a pretty big part of the AIWF, which is a large governing body of professional wrestling. I mean, it's
huge.
They have territories all over the world. So what do you currently have going on in wrestling? I mean,
all right. Well, this could take a few. Let me take a deep breath. So right now I'm the AIWF International Champion. Like you said, AIWF is huge. It's I want to say it's 150 different companies in 50 countries. So not just the U.S., but like all over the place. Matt Classic, I always got to shout him out. He's the president of the AIWF. Awesome guy. He works nonstop. Like, we're doing this right now. I don't know if anyone's going to know what time it is, but it's like 11:30 at night. Yeah. He's probably also awake doing something. And so, like, he deserves that respect of, like, that dude is a hustler. But, you know, winning this title has kind of, it's given me it's an opportunity to have a ton of fun, man. All these different companies, I reach out to them constantly because I want to travel. Now's the time. Let's do this. So I think since February, I'm at like 46 title defenses where like I'm just going, and like we're just going. So most weekends I try to wrestle 2 to 3 times if I can. I'll do a double shot on the same show if people want to really get out there and do it. Like more than half of my title defenses have been multi-man matches, which is kind of fun too, because you know those it's a whole other sort of challenge. But so I've probably wrestled over 100. I've wrestled over 100 people for my title. I mean, I had one night where like it was a 30-person match for the title. So like, you know, it was a rumble. It was a rumble to pinfall. It was crazy.
Wow.
But you know, I like doing this. Like, this is what we're here for. So in terms of that, so I've got that going on. Like next weekend I'll be in East Haven. That's for PAPW. That's kind of my home promotion. So PAPW in Connecticut is Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. It's run by Paul Roma and Mario Mancini.
Nice.
Yeah, so I work out at their school. So they have a school. I go down there most Wednesday nights. I'm down there training. I get like 4 or 5 hours in the ring to sweat, you know, doing ring work and training and staying on top of the game. Can't stress that enough for anybody listening who like is a wrestler or wants to be a wrestler. Like, you can't let off on that. Stay on that. Stay on the basics always. But yeah, so I work out with those guys. So they have a show, so I'll be down there doing that. What I like about that too, PAPW meant the students they have coming up and out, the people who like develop from there. I'll name drop some people if you guys want to Google them, man. But like Alan Compass, Sylvan, Jekyll, new guy coming out, Corey Duke, look at Jermaine Marbury. Look up these guys on the internet. Just look them up. I won't tell you much about them. Just look them up, learn about them, because these are guys that are coming out. They're working super hard, and they deserve the shot. But so yeah, so I got a show with them. The weekend after that, I'll be in Septiles, Quebec. It's 14 hours away from here, which I know because I'm going to drive there, because like flying up, the other option was to fly to Montreal, and it's like 9 hours from there. So that'll be cool. It's a super show. The guy I'm wrestling is from Spain, so I'm from the U.S. and he's from Spain, and we're wrestling in Canada. So
that's awesome.
It's
international
it's
affair.
a literal international title match, you know. So that's cool. I wrestled in Canada like 2-3 weeks ago. I had a double shot in Massachusetts a couple weeks ago. I'm out there and I want to do it. Like even this podcast, man. I'm having fun getting to meet more people, talk to more people, and just do what we're doing. Wrestling is definitely like this thing where you get out what you put into it. You know, everything is like that. But with wrestling, man, it's like I'm trying to take this opportunity, this title, and I'm trying to get guys like those guys I just named. I want to make sure that they get an opportunity to go out there and succeed as well. It's so important in wrestling, man. Bring your boys with you. Do your thing. Love what you're living. You know, you were in bands, right?
Yeah.
Dude, how much fun do you have on the road with your boys? That's what it is. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
yeah,
man. So I'm. Go ahead.
Thanks, man. No, I was just gonna say, like, along with what you're saying, I am not running a company right now. My partner actually sold our company last year. So, but I talked to Matt about bringing a couple of the young kids who I really believe in this area to the big anniversary show in March. And he was like, of course you can. So I've got a couple kids. Right now, it's looking like Brian Huff and Tice Young are coming. We might try to line up a couple of people to come too. But I really just want them to have the opportunity to be on this giant 2-day show, because those anniversary shows are huge, man. And there's so many promoters from all over the world there. And I just want, I at least want the two of them to get a chance to get out there and show what they can do. And I'm gonna rent the van. I'm gonna rent the cabin. I'm gonna pay them.
Yeah, man.
I just really believe in those kids. So
what I think is the most fun about those kinds of shows too, and this is something that could potentially be controversial. I don't know.
Hey.
A lot of people think that wherever they come from is the best wrestling.
Right.
I've heard that. Like, I'm in New England, right? Yeah. And everybody in New England's like, well, New England's got the best wrestling.
But have they been to the Midwest?
Exactly. You know, dude, when I went and trained in Hawaii, like, cool. I'm in Hawaii, and I walk into the school. It's the same school that trained Jeff Cobb. And I walk in here. I'm here for the week. I want to work out. And in the future, if I can get back here for a show, it'd be cool. There's no shows while I'm here. That's okay. I want to work out. And so these guys who are Samoan, they look at me and they go, cool. you want to train today? And I said, yeah. They go, well, before anyone can join our class, you have to be able to do 2,500 squats,
Right.
and then it's 50 roundhouse kicks per leg to the heavy bag before you can come in and train with us. And I was like, right now? Like, that's how we're starting? And sure enough, man, the whole class did it.
Yeah.
There was no joke, man. It was AZW. I don't know if they're still running, but the guy who trained me over there, it was crazy. But do that around the country. Tell me how many places can do that. And so I tell these guys, I'm like, when you go there, man, open your mind. I was there, and I had a match with Alan Compass. Awesome match. He and I wrestled each other for 2023, I think like 10, 15 times. And like, we had a hardcore blow-off match. Like, it was a big thing. We did a lot of matches. I went down there. We had a great time, great match. It was my first time in North Carolina in front of that crowd. Super awesome match. And then I go to the back, and I sat down, and I was sitting with Greg Anthony, who's Golden Boy Greg Anthony. He's the AWS heavyweight champion. And, you know, he's been wrestling. I want to say it's 20. He's wrestling 20 plus years. And he was like, you should do this, this, and this. And I was like, all right. I mean, and it's stuff where in New England it would never work. But, you know, Greg's from down in Memphis. So that Memphis mindset, I mean, come on, you're going to tell me that Jerry the King Lawler doesn't know what he's doing? So it's like all these guys, when you get to go to these shows, ask somebody, and the hardest thing I think for a lot of guys, especially young guys, is accept the fact that they're probably going to tell you to change something.
Yeah.
And don't get mad. Don't get mad.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the showcases are great for that.
For sure. I was going to say that's one of the best things about the Midwest. Like in Chicago, the Illinois area, you've got like the super indie style. And then in Ohio, they're a lot more like tradition based. But then we've also got Kentucky. A lot of those Kentucky guys worked in Tennessee, and there's a really like old school Southern brawler mindset coming out of Kentucky. And then that all kind of converges, and that's what we get here. I mean, I'm originally from New York. I honestly have always loved the wrestling in the Midwest. Like, I think it's the coolest like hybrid style, and that still carries on today, which is really, really cool to me. Like I said, like we said, there's, you know, wrestling works best when there's something in it for everybody, you know, and that's, I think you get that out here a lot. So. And
that's the thing is, like, a lot of these guys, when you go to a wrestling show, they're afraid to find their spot on that show.
Yeah.
You know, so I am 5'10". I weigh 252 pounds, but I can do a standing moonsault and a standing shooting star. I've only ever done those things in the ring 2 or 3 times because my place on the show doesn't always call for it. But I think a lot of guys, they get so hung up in, I am this, that they're afraid to do something else. And I think that's, you know, it's like, it's such a good opportunity to be like, hey, who am I? Like, what can I do to make the overall show better?
Right. And I think a problem that a lot of the young kids have too, and I don't want to turn this into like a school.
Oh, I'm not trying to complain about it. No, I'm just trying to say it from a positive way.
I'm saying, like, I'm not trying to turn this into like, let's teach wrestling podcast, you know.
Okay. My bad.
No, you're good. But I think a problem that a lot of the young kids have is they want to get out there and show everything they can do every single night because they want to have a banger every night. Yeah. So they want to go out there and do every move in their bag. And then, you know, you get, okay, so we have a guy out here, Mitchell Taylor. He travels all over the place. He's actually been on some of the AWF shows, the anniversary ones, but he's been in England. He wrestles regularly in Colorado. Like he's been doing it for over 20 years, but he's a bigger guy. So he was working with this Lucha kid on one of my shows, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, man, you're going over with your finishing moves on this kid." give him some stuff because he's got some neat stuff, but you're going over with your finish. And he brings like a little purple bag sometimes with him because he's royalty. And so his finishing move was pulling a chain out of that bag and punching the kid in the face with it. And it's perfect. It's so perfect. Like, and I think there's lessons in that for the younger kids. Like, if someone tells you to go over with your finish, you don't have to do a freaking 450 moonsault. Like you can. Yeah, man. Yeah. And it was, and he made the kid look good too. Like it was a really good match. So.
Yeah. No, I mean that's wrestling, man. It's like, check the ego at the door. We're there to entertain. It's the most excellent entertainment there is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the fun of it, right? It's like, I come out, I sing my theme song while I'm walking out to the ring. I have some fun. I juke, I jive a little bit. It's like, I don't know, man. Like,
it's great.
You can't take this. Yeah, we're here to wrestle, and it's time to fight, and it's time to have, I'm gonna hit you hard, and it's gonna hurt, but we're gonna also be entertained, man. That's what we're here for. I want to have some fun too, damn it. I'm gonna have fun beating you up,
Yeah.
People don't think about it that way.
So it sounds like probably, because this is a question that we'd like to ask, but with you, it almost feels like a moot point. But this is kind of the last question we like to ask. It sounds like your biggest setback was your ankle. Is that fair or?
My biggest setback in like athletics or life or what? I don't know.
Or just either or, like something that could have stopped you from pursuing the entertainment business or pursuing the creative side of your life. Yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of things that like, I don't really get into them too much about like what the heavy things are, but like,
sure.
The way you grow up and the way you're raised.
Yeah.
I didn't have when I was a real little kid, it wasn't always great. All right. Sure. I'll just say that. The rest of it doesn't matter. It's a moot, it's a moot point. But I think the thing about for me in pursuing things and going after things in life is that if I had it's kind of like all right, comics. Let's do a comic reference.
Sure.
The Killing Joke, right? What's one of my favorite comics? That one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it represents this dichotomy of what does it take to make a person crazy? Is one bad day, bad day, and I think for myself, the inverse of like what made me quit, but what made me keep going was this idea that from a young age, I developed this mindset of this bad day won't be the day to break you. Because, I had innumerous opportunities to be like, no, I'm just going to go and do this. Like, I'm going to go fall into drugs, or I'm going to fall into heavy drinking, or I'm going to fall into, because all of those things from a very young age were around me, like from like 3 years old on. And so when you're around those things all the time, you kind of get to make the choice. What am I going to be? How am I going to be? And, man, there's tons of opportunity, but I think, if we're going to say like what helped me push on, I kept saying yes to life. I kept saying yes to opportunity. A lot of the things where I've been in life have come from the fact that I was like, that sounds super duper weird.
Let's do it. Yeah. And so that was kind of the second part of the question. You sort of answered it. But yeah, it basically what we like to touch on is what keeps you going, what keeps you creating, what keeps you wanting to do this, so you kind of touched on that. So,
I mean, especially with like wrestling. So there was a time where I, 4 years ago, where I was going to be done with wrestling. Yeah. I was at a point where I didn't think I was giving wrestling what it deserved of me. Wrestling for me, like I said, it's almost midnight and we're here doing a podcast.
Man.
I've been at the gym how many days this week while working? I worked 72 hours this week. I've got everything else that I'm doing. So what am I giving to wrestling? Like, there was a time where I said to myself, do I deserve to have people cheering for me? Am I giving enough to have the muscles in the ring? Am I giving enough to have the right gear in the ring? Am I crisp enough with my movements? Because I want to respect what wrestling is. I mean, I very much believe in the history of wrestling and the people who came before me. This chain I wear, it's in memoriam to Hercules Hernandez. It's like there are certain things about what I do, and like, do I even deserve this? So, I went to have a conversation with Mario and Paul, and before I could even say any words to them, Mario said to me, he was like, "Dude, when you get in the ring and you throw a headlock on somebody and you yell wrestling, because that is wrestling, and the people cheer back with you wrestling," he's like, "that's the greatest thing ever." He's like, "that entertains me." And I was like, he didn't know it. And I don't think I've ever even told him because, I don't know how to broach that conversation. But if he ever hears this, there he goes. But like, that conversation is why I kept going, because it occurred to me that maybe what I was doing was worth it, and people did appreciate it.
Awesome.
And so here I am, man. X number of years later, rocking the title, talking to you, having fun, loving it.
Awesome, brother. All right, so I'm going to open the floor to you. You can tell the people where to find you. Anything else that you want to say? And
So I mean, I'm on Instagram at the Bloodsaw, Facebook Buzz Bloodsaw. Follow PIPW in Connecticut, man. Follow AIWF. Check out these guys I talked to you about earlier. Alan Compass, Sullivan, Jermaine Marbury, Corey Duke. Jekyll. Follow all these guys. Check them out. The thing I can say most to all the people at home, if you like entertainment, if you like wrestling, don't limit yourself and don't be afraid to have some fun and do something weird. Wrestling is fun, entertainment is weird, and it's okay to like both.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much. I think this is our longest podcast. So we talked for a while, brother. I appreciate your time, man.
Man.
I want to thank Bloodsaw for coming. I want to thank Tyler and Emmy Studios. Get better, brother. I know you've got a lot of extra work to do because you're not here to produce this while we're recording it. So yeah, I'm sure the finished product will be great. Thank you for everybody who's listening and watching, and we'll talk to you later. All right.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.